Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Sunday, March the 9th. We are very happy to have you in for another episode of the Prime Time program, Free Agency. It's really going. I mean, things are not technically going to kick up on the free agent market until tomorrow at 11 a.m. when the legal tampering period will begin. But we have deals flying around all over the place. We have extensions. We have contracts for players who have been cut, who don't have to wait until the new league year begins. And we have trades at this point in time, including DK Metcalf to the Steelers. You've got Josh Allen getting an extension. Myles Garrett's making $40 million a year. Harold Landry is going to New England. $26 million guaranteed. Mike Vrabel's nuts for that. $26 million guaranteed for Harold Landry to come to New England on a 3-year contract at this point in time. So that's the kind of stuff that's floating around in the ether at this point, and we're going to dive into the Titans' ideal path forward, best case scenario and worst case scenario for free agency at this point in time. We'll look forward to your contributions, and we appreciate you guys always showing up and hanging out with us. If you're hanging out on Twitter, please retweet the show in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. And if you're on Facebook Live, you can share now to public. That's in the bottom left. On YouTube and Twitch, give us a thumbs up, a like on the video. If you would be kind enough to participate there, text the link to a friend. If you're feeling extra generous, because we got a lot to get through, and I'm sure plenty of people have interesting paths for the Titans to pursue in free agency. There's no one perfect path through free agency, which is what we're going to talk about. But I'm going to give you some of the things that I've heard, along with some of the other things that have been reported about who the team might be interested in and what direction they might go. Because by the end of the radio show tomorrow at 1 p.m. Central Time, Monday, we will know a great deal more about this football team than we have basically for the last 3 months since Mike Borgonzi got hired under Chad Brinker to work with Brian Callahan. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. Maybe not as jaw-dropping with the money as last year was, but I do think that there's still a lot of interesting pieces and parts that can help us learn more about the Tennessee Titans at this point in time. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time from the Zen Sports Studios. I'm your host, Buck Rising. I'm proud, as always, to be presented to you by Zen Sports. Promo code ATOZTN gets you in on all the action. Your no-danger first wager is what can be unlocked. Your $100 no-danger first wager at zensports.com. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer, online at tworiversford.com for more information. By Bart Durham Injury Law, you deserve to be paid, and their team will put you in position to succeed if you've had an automobile accident or if you are in need of a personal injury attorney. And, of course, TrueMath Fitness in the Gulch. You got to be in shape. Beach season is nearly upon us. Spring break is upon us, as a matter of fact. TrueMath Fitness will put you in position to succeed on all your fitness goals. Bert is mad at me because I slept through our initial phone call and called him at 7 p.m. tonight to get a show that is supposed to start at 7 p.m. off the ground. It's the first time that I've actually been late. I've told you I've never been late in the history of primetime. Tonight is not the case. We still damn near got this thing off the ground before we normally would. But we have a lot of different things to consider because free agency is going to dry up fast. There's not a lot of good players out there and available. The quarterback market is less than ideal. The Sam Darnold proposition is something that we've talked about. I am in the camp of worst case scenario, one of the worst case scenarios, including Sam Darnold. I have heard from people in the Titans front office about quarterbacks that they might be interested in pursuing on the free agent market, but I think the names are going to surprise you. I told you on Thursday night that I was also told to keep an open mind about the idea of trading for Kirk Cousins, though I don't think that is going to be the preferred path forward, only that it's an option that they are willing to at least consider, if not actively pursue. And there will be some more interest or some more insights as we go along talking about the quarterback position. Daniel's already on to me because I've been talking about this player for a while to the Tennessee Titans. And I think a lot of you guys were quick to ignore me at the time because they've been telling me this as early as November. And of course, the difference in November is there was a different general manager. But the thinking has pretty much held the same, it seems, on the quarterback free agent market. So we'll get into those things together. A lot of good stuff. So we've got to talk about how the Titans are going to go about this. And that's how I guess we should begin with your Two Rivers Ford take. What is the best case scenario for the Titans in free agency? You can be as broad with your answer as you like. You can be as limited with your answer as you like. You can give me a couple of positions that you hope that they address. You can give me a specific player that you hope that they sign at this point to help come in here and bolster that roster. You can give me a couple of different answers or answer this question in a couple of different ways. But what is your ideal path for the Titans in free agency, given that legal tampering begins tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. and technically free agency will begin there at noon, 3 p.m. Central Time? Let me know in the comment section on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. It's your Two Rivers Ford take, your ideal path forward, because Two Rivers Ford is the ideal car dealership, the South's most trusted Ford dealer, as a matter of fact. Online at tworiversford.com. Truck month is ongoing. Over 200 Ford F-150s available on the lot. Nobody has better prices or better financing. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com, like I mentioned. So there's a couple of different ways that you can look at this. Now, what we have talked to a couple of different people about is the idea of being selective in free agency. That's one of the things that Mike Borgonzi and Chad Brinker emphasized in their opening press conference. It continues to be their mantra, or marries with their mantra, of draft, develop, and retain. And so the Titans are going to look to find as many organic solutions to their problems as they can. But it will not stop them from signing some Band-Aid type deals in free agency. The first place, the best case scenario for me, is that the Titans do not overspend on this year's market. I think that I would be good with one big deal to one of the players that they feel fills as many needs as humanly possible, who we'll get to here in just a second, and filling out the rest of this year's free agency, not like last year where Calvin Ridley got top of tier 2 wide receiver money, where Lloyd Cushenberry got the most guaranteed money as a center in NFL history, where Kenneth Murray got a significant amount of guaranteed money. Bad deal there. We know that L'Jarius Sneed and Chido Awuzie were both paid significant amount of money after they traded for L'Jarius Sneed and signed Awuzie to a 3-year deal in free agency. They spent a lot of money, $280 million plus last year in total contracts, and they were the worst team in football. Going about it fully addressing your needs through free agency is never going to solve your problem. Most teams in an ideal world would draft well and also benefit from draft luck, right? I think a lot of people think that Howie Roseman is God amongst NFL personnel man, because he's done an excellent job over the course of the past couple of years. And yes, he has drafted incredibly well. And yes, he has taken advantage of stupid teams like the Titans and the Giants to acquire pieces like A.J. Brown and Saquon Barkley that should never have been available on the free agent market, but were at the time because their organizations mismanaged the previous situations that those players were under. They have drafted well, but they've also gotten lucky. Like the idea that both of their corners last year, both of their rookie corners would be, not Pro Bowlers necessarily, but damn near, right? In their first year, Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean were starters for the Eagles right away. They were leading candidates for Defensive Rookie of the Year. That's as much luck as it is to be good, but sometimes you make your own luck, and the Eagles do it so well. So as you look at the ideal path forward for the Titans in free agency, my ideal path would include one mega deal at potentially the top or about the top of the market, and then more or one mega deal, like I said, not one-year deal, one mega deal, and then a handful of 1-year deals or 2-year deals with guaranteed money associated with them to just keep you competitive in free agent bidding, with a couple of different veterans who can bridge the gap. Because what I think you're going to do is not going to be the best quarterback solution your favorite quarterback solution in the world, but I do believe there's a path forward here that makes a lot of sense. And, of course, a lot of this will continue to depend on the Titans' level of interest in the number 1 overall pick at this point in time. Eric Castillo says draft and develop. That's the new motto. Titans fans don't need to cry about these trades. Well, I don't know how many Titans fans are crying about the transactions, but it got started this morning. Aaron Jones resigned with the Vikings. Then you saw Justin Fields is getting ready to test the market in NFL free agency. Not a lock to go back to the Steelers. Ernest Jones got a 3-year, $33 million deal in Seattle. The Jamie Sherwood, the Jets linebacker, got paid as well. Devontae Adams went to the Rams on a 2-year deal. The Bengals re-signed Cody Ford, an offensive lineman who you might have had interested in. Marquise Bell, the Cowboys safety, signed a 3-year deal. Austin Hooper, Titans legend, staying with Mike Vrabel, going back to the Pats on a 1-year deal. The Denver Broncos gave Jarrett Stidham $12 million over 2 for a deal to be their backup quarterback. Harold Landry going to New England on a 3-year deal, which is crazy, $26 million guaranteed for Mike Vrabel and Harold Landry to reunite. Bills got a record 6-year deal done with Josh Allen, and the Steelers traded for DK Metcalf, then gave him a $150 million contract across 5 years. So those are the latest deals right now. But my free agency path forward requires the level of selectivity that I think the Titans are going to approach this with, which could also include big money on 1 or 2 positions, like, for example, safety. And Javon Holland is a player that the Titans have had interest in, and a player that we recently discussed on this week's episode of The Install with Greg Cosell of NFL Films.
Guys, let's say, and we don't know who that might be. Look, one could argue with the safety position. Javon Holland's out there. He's really a strong safety. Strong safety player. I don't mean strong safety in terms of free or strong. He's probably one of the 5 or 6 safeties in the league that would be viewed as sort of 5-tool players, using a baseball term, meaning he can do anything at the safety position. He's not specific to, you've got to use him this way. He'd be one of those guys that could do anything. Player like that. I don't know what their stance is on Holland, but that kind of player, I would assume you're going to have to pay a good amount for.
Early indications specifically to Javon Holland are that they are interested. My friend Cam Wolf at the NFL Network had mentioned that the Panthers and the Titans are.
Well, that would make sense to me. Holland. I mean, again, now you start getting into the negotiation stuff, which I don't really get involved with, as you know. Like that. But I mean, just looking at the player.
Yeah, and I'll ask you more specifically about the player here in just a second. We're going to touch on a couple of different pending free agents, given that this is. So that is a clip from the install that you can check out on the 104.5 The Zone YouTube page before free agency. There's a lot of good insights and information in there, including my worst case scenario, which we'll get to in a second. Ryan says, can't spend money on a safety. Yeah, you can. You need one. I would rather you spend money on a safety than on an off-ball linebacker this year. Again, he's a 5-tool player. You need reinforcements in your secondary. When you were at your best under John Robinson, and I know that John lit it on fire at the end, right? So maybe it's harder for you guys to remember what happened at the start of the John Robinson era that got them back to meaningfully competitive, as opposed to how it ended, which it ended in, no short terms, catastrophe. The Titans rebuilt their secondary first and foremost. John Robinson got in here in 2016 and got rid of all the bad signings that Rustin Webster had made during his tenure, specifically how he had constructed that secondary. Over the course of time, he drafted Kevin Byard and Amani Hooker to replace the safeties. He signed Logan Ryan and Malcolm Butler as corners in free agency. He drafted Adoree Jackson with the 18th overall pick. Kenny Vaccaro was a player that got here in the throes of that as well in free agency when the safety market was down. They spent a shit ton of money to rebuild their secondary first and then try and draft their front organically. Now, some things hit, some things didn't. Jeff and Harold didn't end up being enough to make them special, but it did give them at least pieces that they could create a pass rush around. At the height of Jarrell Casey, Jeffrey Simmons, Harold Landry was on the roster when they went to the AFC Championship game in 2019. You were still putting together a couple of different pieces and parts to make that thing go, but you built from back to front under John Robinson. And frankly, after the bad deals that were given out last year, the deals that look bad 1 year removed, we'll see what happens with Snead and Awuzie in year 2. Amani Hooker still on the roster. Jeff Simmons still on the roster. Those are now the two longest tenured Titans at this point in time. But it's a 5-tool player that brings something to your defense that allows you to be versatile with your front. That's something that you lost in Harold Landry. So while I am telling you that, Harold Landry or pass rushers are going to make more money, of course, Harold Landry also opened up additional doors for you at his height, right? His powers had faded, at least here, since the Achilles tear or the ACL tear a couple of years ago. But if it makes you versatile and it satisfies a couple of different needs, Javon Holland makes a ton of sense. I also, and I can read you directly from my text that I was talking to some team sources about with the quarterback free agency here in just a second, because the quarterback free agency is going to be interesting. That's not obviously where I expect you to spend at the top of the free agent market, a la Sam Darnold. I don't think that they're going to be anywhere really close to in the Sam Darnold business, but we'll see how things manifest over the course of the next 24 to 48 hours. I'll tell you who I am hearing from the Titans about potential free agent quarterback acquisitions here in just a second, right after I remind you that the Primetime program is made possible by BartDurham.com. You deserve to be paid. Blair Durham and the BartDurham.com team will be there to help you and get you the results that you deserve, whether you're dealing with automobile accidents or are in need of a personal injury attorney. BartDurham.com has so many great results over the course of 75 years plus, helping people like you in Tennessee and Kentucky. BartDurham.com for more information. All right, so on the quarterback front for the Titans in free agency, it gets markedly less sexy. So I was sending around a couple of texts and trying to figure out, all right, what direction might we head in? And as early as November, I was hearing from the Titans that a good percentage of people, now obviously Ran Carthon was fired. So when you fire the general manager, things change. But for the most part, it sounds like the powers that be really are still in place, a la Chad Brinker, and the additional people that Chad Brinker has brought in to work under him in his new look vision now that he has roster control instead of Ran Carthon. But I had heard in November that the preference at the time was, and they still had games to play, but Cam Ward over Shedeur Sanders. And then I got a text specifically to quarterback free agency that I thought was interesting. So this is, quote, I'm team Mac Jones or Zach Wilson. I would like Darnold too. Just don't know if we'll spend that kind of money, but you get a free agent quarterback and you end up winning enough to pick in the 18 to 26 range every year again, and you're still in purgatory. So that source was also acknowledging if you do hit on a quarterback that's good enough to win some games, but not enough games, it can really hurt your draft stock. And they're cognizant of that, right? Which is why I think the Mac Jones and Zach Wilson rehabilitation tour route is a likely path forward. Now, of course, there might be other people interested in the services of Mac Jones, but what do the Titans offer that most places will not, as Denver gives Jarrett Stidham $12 million to be $12 million over two to be the backup quarterback there. Titans offer opportunity to start. Mac Jones and Zach Wilson will be looking for starting opportunities as they hope to be the next former first-round picks at quarterback to be able to recoup their career either here or somewhere else. But what you are trying to do here is to be Sam Darnold in the rehabilitation stop, not on the $40 million a year stop. And while I know that Mac Jones and Zach Wilson will not entice you or make you feel good or excite you, something that you have to remember, doesn't stop you from drafting Cam Ward and sitting him, right? Because that's the only quarterback that you would be taking with the number one overall pick at this point in time. Again, could it happen with Shedeur Sanders? I guess, but I would be shocked, stunned, appalled, even if there's any world in which Shedeur Sanders is drafted anywhere before Cam Ward. But that's where the Titans are at with it right now. Zach Wilson and Mac Jones, plus you could potentially draft a quarterback in the first round there, which would satisfy both of your needs, because you need, one, a more steady option as at the stopgap backup quarterback, And you need a long-term solution at the quarterback position. Right now, you have the number one overall pick, and it doesn't. I mean, we'll see. A trade could happen. Again, their preference is to trade. They're not saying that publicly, but I believe to my core privately, and I've had conversations that make me believe to my core privately that the Titans would prefer to trade the pick and get as many draft assets as humanly possible. I think that if, obviously since the last time we talked, Geno Smith has gone to the Raiders. It's being reported that the Steelers could be in the Sam Darnold discussions, as could the Seahawks, who, of course, now have an opening at quarterback this year. Those are two teams who are more in position to sign a Sam Darnold type of contract to help put them over the top. But you're in a different phase of this right now. Your organization, while they cannot tell you this or sell you this, is getting ready for another tough season in 2025. And you can have realistic expectations about that, or you can be like, well, I want a group that's going to get me to the playoffs next year, or fire them anyway. Like it may not be good enough for you to kind of slow burn this thing, but that's the path that they're going to take. Or that's the preferred path that they are going to take. And Zach Wilson and Mac Jones, while that's not attractive, it is functional and does seem to fit with their strategy right now. We will see whether those are two deals that actually get done or not. I think that is, I won't even say likely. I just think those are two legit possibilities that you have to keep in mind. It's more likely that they sign a Zach Wilson or a Mac Jones than a Sam Darnold, is how I should put it at this point in time. Chris Frazier says, we're the worst team in the NFL. That's right. That's why you're picking number one overall. And you're probably going to be bad for quite some time. But as long as you have a plan to get there, I know it's not pleasant, but you got to be willing to take your lumps in a situation like this. And I know it's been 3 years since you were basically competitive at this point in time, but that's just kind of the situation that you're in, and you have to be prepared for that mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, all of the above, because that's what it's going to take to get the Titans at least back on the right track. Eric says this has to be one of the most unpredictable off seasons this organization has ever had. Certainly one of the most interesting, right? No clear consensus in the quarterback draft, not a great crop of free agents, a head coach that is on the hot seat, a general manager and president of football operations that are working in concert together to retool this thing. And Mike Borgonzi has the experience to know what it looks like when you go to the worst team in football and build it back up over time. But he was with the Chiefs for 16 years. And it probably took 8 of those 16 years to get the Chiefs to the point, anywhere close to the point that they're operating at now. So I'm not saying that you got to gut it out for 16 years, but you probably got to gut it out for at least 3. I know it's been 3 bad ones leading up to this, but I'm assuming that we're going to be in this for another basically 3 years before you can actually start to talk about the Titans in any kind of realistic way as winning meaningful games again. And it's just kind of where they're at in their competitive cycle versus where the free agency and draft class is right now. Not ideal, but we're going to find out how good Mike Borgonzi actually is as he works to do this over the period of time. Borg says we're going to shock the world in 2042. I mean, I know it sucks, but I'm not going to sell you guys, oversell you guys on what your football team is. I believe they're going to be bad next year, but I believe that at least there's a path forward with people that think they want to know or that think they know how to get there. Whether or not they actually get there, of course, we'll be here to talk about it the whole way through. What's your worst case scenario in free agency? Let me know in the comment section, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. If you would like to get involved there, we would be happy to have your participation. As always, the Primetime Show is presented by the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. Go to GaryAshton.com. Get your dream address without the stress. The intel edge you need to succeed can be found at GaryAshton.com. Worst case scenario is that the Titans overpay in the free agent market. And one of those deals where I think it could be an overpay that Greg Cosell and I also talked about is Josh Sweat, the Philadelphia Eagles pass rusher.
That, to me, is the best point, and that's a great point, because Sweat did not have a good year in 2023. And then he came back this year and had a very good season. And again, played very well in the playoffs. But I think you have to be careful. And again, another player I've watched probably every one of his snaps as a Philadelphia Eagle. Um, you have to be careful that if you sign him, just what you said. I don't believe because of the injuries he's faced throughout his career, he came into the league with a really serious knee injury that, that happened, I guess, in college. And he even hurt his knee in high school, if memory serves me correctly, because he was a top 3 recruit in the country, regardless of position, coming out of, I believe, the Virginia Beach area. I think that general area. I could be wrong on the town. But, you know, with the Eagles, he was able to play as somewhat of a rotational player. And I think if you sign him, you have to understand that that's likely what he is at this point in his career, given the injuries that he has, the mileage on his body. He's going to be 28, something along those lines. Not that that's old, but, with all the other factors, you can't sign him with the expectation that every week he's playing 70 snaps because I don't think you get the best out of him if you think that way. So I think you have to be really careful when you sign him you have to deploy him in a way that maximizes his strengths.
And that was kind of the question that I asked Greg was, he's a role player in Philadelphia, but he's going to get paid like a top of market pass rusher and then have to play significantly more snaps wherever he goes and probably not live up to that contract. So an overpay of any kind is worst case scenario. I think Sam Darnold at anywhere above $30 million a year is an overpay. I think that Josh Sweat, based on some of the contract numbers that you're seeing come out right now, is an overpay. The Titans cannot afford to overpay for free agents the way that they did last year, even though they last year had to pay the we suck luxury tax and then sucked even worse en route to that. Yes, they might have to give out a $15 to $20 million deal to a Javon Holland, for example, to get him here. But that's the only one deal like that or 2 deals like that at maximum would I be comfortable with the Titans giving out at this point in time. That's my worst case scenario, is that they get into long-term, top-of-market contracts for 2 straight years because, of course, we saw the results of that last year. It was not nearly good enough. And, of course, the disaster that was their quarterback play influences that as well. So that's where we're at with the Titans free agency path forward. Again, selective is something to keep in mind here. They've talked about that a great deal. The 2 things that I've mentioned to you, I've mentioned to you that they're going to have options, or they're going to try and give themselves as many options as they can moving forward. They can draft a quarterback, number 1 overall. They can trade back and draft a quarterback later. They can trade for Kirk Cousins. They can sign Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, or somebody in that ballpark. They can do a combination of a couple of those different things. They are going to have multiple scenarios in place for this organization to be able to move forward the way that they need it to. But the point is that the quarterback plan, I think, requires patience and honesty. And the patience part is something fans aren't going to give them, and I get that. The honesty part is something that they have to stick to, even though you guys are going to shout them down when they sign Mac Jones or Zach Wilson in free agency. They have to stick to what they think is correct. And what they think is correct is a more paced approach than I think a lot of the fans are going to want them to take. That's just where things are at right now. We'll get to a little Sunday fun day. Bert has some a little boots on the ground reporting perhaps tomorrow on this situation that we will cover briefly tonight. What's the best thing that you saw this weekend? It could be some of the contracts that are being handed out. It could be something that you saw on the internet that was not sports related. What's the best thing that you saw on the internet this week? Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch in the comment section. While you guys do that, I will remind you that the Primetime program is made possible by True Math Fitness in the Gulch. Your first workout is free as a Middle Tennessee resident. No workout ever recycled or repeated. TrueMathFitness.com. The best thing that I saw on the internet this week is a couple of women that appear to be out of college at this point in time. I don't know if they're quite mom age based on what I can only see from them in this 16-second video, but it's pretty crazy to be sending out butt pics from the sidelines or from the stands of a Coastal Carolina, Eastern Carolina baseball game.
What that plan is. Selfie time for some, looks like some Chanticleer fans.
Yeah.
Chanticleer supporters. Okay. Obviously, her glasses are not reading glasses because she had them down where.
Because her phone was taking a picture of her ass. That's why it wasn't reading glasses, right? That was the joke. Also, not Eastern North Carolina. It's just East. East Carolina. That's it.
I said Eastern Carolina. I didn't say Eastern North Carolina.
Well, it is East Carolina. Also,
East Carolina.
These girls think their shit don't stink. Let me tell you.
What that plan is. Selfie time for some.
Oh, he's gonna love this one. Hold on.
Fans. Yeah. Chanticleer supporters.
You want to smell it?
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it smells like.
Obviously, her glasses.
Yeah, you want to smell it too? Look at this.
Because she had them down where.
Like, what are we doing, girls?
Obviously, they're not reading glasses. I can't imagine somebody more starched and stiff talking about butt pics that they caught on the broadcast than a couple of college baseball broadcasters.
Also, those are not good old East Carolina girls. They're not those girls. Those are coastal Carolina girls. Those are the girls that your mom worried you about. Those are the girls that the rule applies: if she smokes, she pokes. Those are the girls that you have to worry about getting a call back and being like, hello? Yeah? Birds when you pee?
No.
Okay.
Shame on you.
Yeah. Look it up. Look it up. Hold on. In fact, I'm going to do some real look at coastal Carolina STD epidemic. Is that the right word?
Epidemic.
It was an issue. It was a huge issue.
Clearly.
Okay. STD rates in Myrtle Beach. Myrtle Beach ranks among the top 100 U.S. cities with high rates of sexually transmitted diseases.
Oh no!
Not just look. I'm giving you factual.
No, I mean these are the
tangible
facts.
Evidence.
You cannot dispute the facts. These are indeed the facts that we are presented with, and it's why we appreciate Bert's boots on the ground reporting. Thank you for the time.
Sorry.
That's going to do it for us tonight. Radio show. We're going to react. We'll probably get a lot of contracts live during the show since this stuff starts at 11 a.m. Central Time. Is officially open for business at 11 a.m. Central Time. We look forward to having your participation. A quick reminder on the way out the door that Zen Sports makes the podcast and the primetime show and all good things possible. They also make your $100 no danger first wager possible with the promo code ATOZTN. Terms and conditions do apply. Must be 21 plus. And in the state of Tennessee at Zen Sports. To bet gambling problem, call 1-800-889-9789. Get your install tickets. Get them now. I'm almost halfway through the amount of tickets that I had to sell, 250 tickets. Free agency will spike the level of ticket sales that we have. Get them tonight. Scan that QR code. You can get in the door for just $30. VIP tickets also on offer, with food and drink included in your evening when Greg Cosell flies to Nashville and breaks down your entire free agent class and draft class the Friday after the NFL draft. We will see you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. on 104.5 The Zone. Go home.